Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ross, Planet X Film channel. Like, subscribe, share. It's Paradigm Review Show. Is what we usually review TV and movies, but today we actually have the Gray State full script deep dive by David Crowley. There's two versions of it. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up, but it leaked a while back. Shout out to Greg and Dan, or else I probably would have never even been able to read this project that I, crowdfunded. So they could check this out. Where could they get these files, Greg? They can get them on the group.
Yeah, yeah, they can get them from the group. You can get all of them if you go to my website. If you go to thegraystage.wordpress.com, scroll down
Nice.
to the bottom of that of the very first page, you'll get all of the documents are all there, all scripts, three scripts now. Now we have the two that were done in 2014, and then we have just recently we have one that was made in 2013, and they are it's a completely different story. Characters are taken out. Danny Mason's character is in the 2013 script, but as we've talked about, his character is not in that 2014 script. So something happened during that time, and so yep, yeah, you can look at all the files, all of the photos, and everything. And I'm gonna go ahead and post this in the group too right now.
How did you guys obtain that new copy? Was it sent in anonymously, like the
Yeah,
originals? Or?
yeah,
Okay,
basically, yeah.
interesting.
Actually, the 2013 one, somebody found it online. One of the members in the
Mhm.
Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group found it, and posted it. It had a lot of
Interesting.
malware and a lot of weird stuff on it. So we took
Hmm.
screenshots of every page. We had a couple people. They took
Hmm.
screenshots of every page because we didn't know and then of course, soon after we got all of the screenshots done for every page of the 2013 script, then it was taken down. So whoever had it up must have caught wind that we were looking at it, and they tried to
Hmm.
take it down, but we got it before they could. So that was
Nice.
from a group member named Yolandi. So thank you for that, because she was like, "Hey, have you guys read this script?" And first I thought, well, it's a 2014 script. But as I started reading, I'm like, oh, this is a completely different story. So yeah, we'll definitely have to cover that one sometime. I'll
Yes,
be curious to hear your thoughts on that
definitely.
script. I know you're very vocal about your thoughts on the 2014 script, so this should be fun.
Well, I mean, if you spent the amount of money that I spent on the trailer, you'd be critical as well, right? So this is
That's
like
right.
let's
That's right.
let's get into this, guys. I guess first and foremost, what I'll do is when this video, because right, if you guys are tuning in live right now, this video will go on demand as soon as we're done here, and then I can add cards and end titles and tags and all that stuff. So we'll post the original Gray State trailer here, and we'll do a little bit of a breakdown. So that trailer went viral. It was basically a concept trailer to pitch a feature film. To make a long story long, because anything to do with Gray State, there's no short way around. You can go to Greg's site. This entire book, you can watch all the thousands of hours of footage that these guys have uploaded, and that will get you like 1% of the story. You know what I mean? So
True. Very true.
well, I
Just
guess your book will get them a little farther along than 1%, but I mean,
That's
it's
true. That's true. But
it's
even the
extremely
book, it's
complicated.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah, even the book, the Gray Stage, it's over 200 pages, and yeah, it barely scratches the surface of this whole
yeah.
book.
You
So
just kind
it's
of deliver the facts in that one. I mean, you do a great job, and that's a free download they can get
yes,
on
it is.
your site as well as
Absolutely.
supporting your book. So check that out, guys. That'll help you out with the case. You know what I mean? But the rest of that, you're just gonna have to do your own. So what everybody does is you guys go like, where can I watch it? That's question
Right.
number one. You guys ask, where can I watch it? And question number two is, oh, I saw it. I saw Gray State. And you know what I mean? And most of the time, you're either referring to the Gray State that Greg and Dan were in, which is what now no longer on Netflix. So I don't even know where you can. Yeah, I guess you can't find it. And then, you know what I mean? That's the best non-promo that's ever been done on the internet.
Right. Right.
And then what happened was Gray State, The Rise, which was a complimentary documentary that David was working on in conjunction with the feature film, and that was supposed to cover like the more factual historical source. Well, I guess historical, I don't know, but the more like current event source material that kind of Gray State was supposed to be drawing from. So that ultimately leaked posthumously as The Rise. So that's what's out there. The concept trailer, The Rise, and then the A Gray State, which was more about David, I guess David's demise, if you will, and that. And I guess somewhat him working on the project, or that's I feel like that's not really what they focused on in there. Greg can get his opinion on it. Yeah. Now, whereas I've been vocal about the script, you guys have been much more vocal about the documentary. So
that's true.
What up, Ray Man?
Yeah, they really butchered David Crowley's name in that, and it was horrible to watch that movie or that film, I guess, whatever, if you can even call it that. You notice that thing, that thing, the thing. But they have, I mean, if you think about what is on the Netflix streaming app, and for it to be taken off of the Netflix, it's got to be pretty bad. It's pretty bad if they're doing that. Yeah, it's a
bottom, like, you know what I mean, qualification, right? So
yeah, they put everything on there. Anyway.
For sure. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little breakdown of like what's out there, and then you can tap in with the group or check out Greg's website and Dan's channel, and they've done a great job of covering things over there. But what I really want to just focus on is so if you guys want to know the story, right? So there's the concept trailer, and then there's these I guess there's these couple versions of the script that I was informed of when Dan was talking about when they're released, and you guys posted the file in the group. And now, as of today, Greg has just informed me there's this other alternate version of it. Well, so my question for you is, if his character is removed in that, you said that was the 2014 script?
In the 2013 script, Danny August Mason's character is there. That is Danny August Mason's character in the 2012 trailer. But in the 2014 script, his character is not there.
So is there a different protagonist, or is it how is that handled?
Yeah, it's a guy named, I think it's Daniel Walker is the main character's name in the 2014 script, and it's pretty much based on David. That's the way that I took it. So
but he was in the version that I read. He was in that original file, and also the other file is called like V6, which I guess, and you can see from the notes that there's tons of like unfinished stuff that is was clearly in development. But anyway, I think
Danny August Mason's character is named John Wink.
Okay.
WYNCK. But I don't believe he's in the 2014 in either of those 2014 scripts.
No, I don't recall him. It was definitely Daniel Walker in the versions that I read, which I kind of figured him to be based on the John Wing, just due to the concept trailer. So well, I guess it's been a long time, and I only briefly mentioned it on our last transmission. So let's get into this thing. So the script, right? There's a lot of things that I would have done differently, but it's all good. I mean, there's definitely some good, some bad. As far as this thing starts off, it starts off in Afghanistan with the killing of like Osama bin Laden, and me, I could see David drawing upon his veteran, experience for all of this, but for me, I don't know if it's just outdated or what the deal is, but I don't really see. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's like it's Osama bin Laden. It's like it's a reference everybody knows, right? I guess he's kind of back then, before the Trump era, he was kind of the face of like fake news and propping up a despot and all that stuff. He was kind of like that pseudo Saddam boogeyman. You know what I mean?
That's
but
right.
It's so I get it from that perspective, but then it starts out with that, and it just like it just feels kind of like unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? Like I could kind of see it, but it's like they start out with that, and then nothing really comes back to that except for like one line at the very end where they're like, come on now, this is the guy that like killed bin Laden, in case you forgot. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like it makes some sense to have the guy who's the leader of the resistance, like, be the guy who killed Osama bin Laden. But at the same time, though, I don't really know how relevant it is to the overall mythos of the story. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of where they lost me. But did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. It's like when,
Yeah,
there should be a payoff for every scene, for every character, for
yeah,
everything. So yeah, so I was
yeah.
waiting for a little bit more to kind of understand why did they even have that scene other than to pretty much show how tough this guy was. And
Right.
but yeah, but there was no payoff like I was
Yeah.
hoping for.
Agreed. Yeah, it didn't really circle, and I feel like perhaps this is just that's kind of how I read it the first time I read it. That I read this version is like, okay, that was not what I was expecting. Like, I look at this as like maybe this was just a very early edition that leaked to early revision, and that like it was clearly something that needed like a lot more development because there was just like you said, as far as if every story arc needs a payoff, like there's probably like 4 or 5 story arcs in this that I don't really see a payoff with. And listen, guys, I gotta tell you, you watch my channel, dude. What do we do on every film review? We tear Hollywood apart. Me, Gaz, and Mac, the guys that I do the reviews with, we're all like big, like indie leaning guys. So we're the as most indie as you could possibly be. But I gotta say though, there is a reason for like a Hollywood script writer, a Hollywood rewriter, and I feel like somebody like a Oliver Stone or someone that's like extremely focused that can take all of those subplot elements and tie them together, like Greg was saying, like there's a reason those guys exist. You know what I mean? Like if this could have all tied together the way like JFK ties together, the way they introduce all those side characters and they show like, oh, they all got bumped off because of the cover up, and the way it, you know what I mean, the way it just comes together. Like I think something like that would have really helped this. So I'm not sure, at least the one that we've read, I'm not sure that this is something that could be in a final development. Like, yeah, sure, you can, like Greg said, you could film anything for Netflix, right? And they'll put it up there. But like, if you want this to have, I don't know, it seems like all those millions of views on the concept trailer and all those people that were following the Facebook, the Gray State Facebook page, I believe that's like 60,000 people or more. You know what I mean? It just seems that it didn't really culminate to what it should have to channel all that backing behind it. You know what I mean? That's I guess the other thing that would have made Gray State different is no other independent movie ever had a dedicated following the way this had at the time before, everything that Greg covers in his book happens, you know what I mean? Which I'm trying to stay on the project here.
Yeah, and there was no payoff for it. I mean, there was a
Right.
lot of that, lots of characters too.
Right.
Even in the 2013 script, there was tons of characters, but in this 2014 script, lots of characters, and just the ending is what really got me because it. Remember, this is the script that David most likely showed to the Michael Entertainment Group. So
Yeah.
this is the script that got him that quote unquote the actual working deal.
Yep.
And there were contracts and everything too. So I mean, it was really moving forward.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then of course they ended up in September of 2014 they ended up saying, well, this would be better as a TV series.
Mm-hmm.
So, but and because there's so many characters and everything, but the 2014 script does kind of feel like a prequel almost, like it's setting up for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of just get dropped into this world. We don't really know too much about what's happened. We're in a
Right.
police state.
Right.
We're not really.
I have a point on that as well.
Yeah.
As Greg was saying, so the way that you're dropped into the story, I really felt that this is something that could use one of those classic Hollywood, like, Prometheus and Mad Max Fury Road. The Sci-Fis do this a lot where they have the comic book prequel. I really felt that this would have needed a Gray State comic book or graphic novel prequel to maybe introduce the main character, because as far as the characterization and character development, like I feel like, is it John Walker, him and Usyk, the lead villain or whatever, the despot there, the tyrant. I'd say the protagonist a bit more, but the villain, like, dude, it would have taken like an Al Pacino level performance to pull that off, because I have to hate him. You know what I mean? And with this guy, he had like 10 lines. It's like I don't even know him, so I don't care enough about him to hate him. That's the thing. Like, you have to, like Greg said, you have to be rooting. You have to get behind the hero. And it's like, even he had some good lines here and there, but he was like a little wishy-washy himself. So yeah, I think this is something that would have done a lot of good to, like, like they were how we discussed it with the interview with David, like developing the mediums of actual Gray State universe, which would be hopefully, comic books and whatever, you know what I mean? Video games and movies and crap, which would have worked out for them. But it's like Greg was saying, just to drop you in the middle of the story. And then it's like, nobody is developed enough for you to really be invested into what happens to their story arc. But I mean, I feel like I'm going in about it. There's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of good ideas. There is a lot of good stuff in there. I'm just not sure that it was developed to or I mean, I could understand, like Greg was saying, going to the production company, pitching them the concept trailer, pitching them the script. But then again, like we were saying, this is 125 pages of a feature film, and then to say like, okay, well, that has to be a 6-part series or 8-part series or 10-part series, then I don't feel like it's enough content. You know what I mean? Because like for a movie, it's like no one's been quite developed enough, because you only have an hour and a half to 2 hours or whatever, like 3.5 hours if it's a Marvel movie, if it's really long. But like, then for it to be a 10-part series, you have to really microscope in on the characters, and they have to, they got to really show you something, because now they have to carry a 60-minute episode for, 10 times. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how I'm looking at it. Not to say that, Michael Entertainment Group didn't have, hey, we got these great script writers, they're going to come in and help with the rewrites, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's kind of how it works, but I guess that's where you have this weird line of between like indie versus the industry, because this was pitched to us as like the most epic, indie, grassroots project that there's ever been, with all these people, all this, social media following behind it and all this crowdfunding behind it, blah, 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 blah. And then that's, if you get the guy from like, oh man, what's like a terrible mainstream movie, not like a Fast and Furious, but something like that. If you come to us with one of those Hollywood writers and we're like, hey, I know we just showed you the most epic concept trailer that's ever been on YouTube, but now we're having the guy that does Ant-Man, rewrite it. It's like, before we even see it, we already don't want to know. Like, bro, you pitched us this hardcore R-rated thing, and it's just we don't want to see it get watered down and turned into trash, basically, before we even have a chance to like see anything, you know what I mean? Which I guess was the looming threat here, but you don't know. I mean, it could have gone either way. That's all I'm saying. It could have went to Michael Entertainment Group, 10-part series, like Greg was saying, and been awesome, if they had the right people behind it, because there are tons of good shows that you could, get some of the people from.
Yeah, I really think people who like the 2012 trailer, there really wasn't anything in the 2014 script that really was there in the, by 2014.
Yes.
Everything had completely changed. But the 2013 script, there is a lot of stuff in there that is similar to the 2012 trailer. So it makes me wonder what was going on? Why this sudden change in a very short time too? Yeah,
that's a great point. Like, again, as all the imagery, even so, I have an industry example of that. Like, Mac and I, we do like the Grindhouse genre here. We're big on Grindhouse movies and Grindhouse films. Well, if you guys, this is gonna be a little bit of a downgrade from Gray State, guys. But if you guys know like Danny Trejo and Machete, when that movie Grindhouse came out with Rodriguez and Tarantino, they had all those fake trailers in the middle. So they had like the Nicolas Cage one, the Danny Trejo one was Machete. They had a fake trailer of Machete because at the time, Danny Trejo had never played a leading role in Hollywood. He had like 60 like side crime roles. He was a consultant on the movie Heat because he was a criminal. You know what I mean? Him and his uncle, they came from like basically a criminal organization. So he had been like consulting on crime films and stuff like that. And so they did Machete, and they had that part when he was on the motorcycle, like flying through the air, like mowing a guy down. This is ridiculous, but it's just like, it's so awesome. So then they actually did put that part in the movie, but a lot of people were saying was like, everyone was just expecting that scene from the fake trailer. So yeah, like you see what I'm going with this. So it's basically saying like Greg was saying, if you show us the concept trailer and it has all these awesome scenes, then we're just expecting you to put those scenes in the feature film. And then it becomes, are you just putting it in there because we're expecting it or not? But on the other hand, having nothing in there from the concept trailer, like Greg was saying, like, bro, where was the Masonic executioner? When we did the interview with David, he literally told us like, yeah, they're going to have that public execution scene in the trailer. It was the guillotine, but he said they were going to have some futuristic device that was, probably more efficient, chopping off more people's heads than one or something. And then
that's in the 2013 script.
Okay, yeah, see, in the versions I read, like, that wasn't in there. Like, dude, where's the public executions? Like Greg was saying, like, there's, like, no scene from the concept trailer, except for maybe, like, the revolt part and, like, some of the fighting, the riots and stuff. Okay, yeah, that's in there, but you kind of expect that to be in there, so,
maybe
I don't know.
That grocery store scene, I think, partially, but really, it didn't really have
that was, like, so fast. It was just like, it was like CVS. It was like the pharmacy. It wasn't even the way she did it in there. She brought, like, her kid with her, right? And they went, and then, like, the shelves were empty. So yeah, the shelves were empty, but he was like just trying to get the medicine. It wasn't even the same.
That's true.
Like you're saying, it wasn't even really the same scene. And then even those characters from the concept trailer, not that, like, you got to know them well from a concept reel, but Sophia had a question. I don't know if you know that one. When did he have the script stylist read his script? I don't know if is that referring to MEG, or I'm not sure.
The script stylist read his script. I'm not sure. Maybe she can.
Probably between 2013 and 2014 would be the guess, right? Because it was like October or something when he.
Are we talking about the Michael Entertainment Group? Is that who we're talking about?
I assume so. I don't know who else the script stylist would be, unless there was a independent one.
That was May. That was May. Well, the script is dated May 12th, 2014, and I believe a couple days later is when David met with the Michael Entertainment Group, because he posted it on Facebook and said, "Hey, it just happened," and so it was a couple days later. So all this happened around in May of 2014. All of the Gray State Goons are all out of it. All of the people that brought David to this dance, who were part of that 2012 trailer, part of the 2013 script, are all gone by this time. They're not mentioned. They're not part of this deal. It is just David, his wife, and it looks like, he may bring some people on, but at that point, it's really no longer David's project. He's basically shipping it off to this Hollywood group. So
which is how things were. I know that's crazy for people, and like a lot of us on the project side and the crowdfunders and stuff were probably thinking it was going to be this epic independent thing, which I don't even know why we would think that, because that's never happened ever. So it wouldn't really make like kind of the way things work is if a project is good enough to get picked up, it gets picked up. Like, it's kind of just how it is. Sophia said she was in Colorado apparently though. So I'm not familiar with what that is, Sophia, but if you can shine some light on it, feel free to give us some more details. Again, I just wasn't sure if that beginning was kind of cliche. Although if I were to do this story, guys, I would do it quite differently, because I'm not a military veteran, but I think I could still get a lot of these elements into something, you know what I mean? But me personally, I think I would avoid Osama bin Laden altogether. At this point, it just came off a little bit cliche. There is the parking lot scene. The police parking lot with, like, the fence cut and then the stickers or whatever on the license plate. I thought that was pretty good. The news montages, basically, like, probably the easiest way for you guys to do this, guys, if you follow along, if you go in there and follow along. But yeah, you'll see some news, and we could even, like, read some of this stuff for you guys if you really want to. Screw it. We haven't done it yet, so I'll drop a little bit of knowledge on them. There's the title credits, guys, after the Osama bin Laden scene. It's a bunch of news montages. So, news 2001, after a chase through the Tora Bora Mountains, the U.S. Special Forces, it appears that Osama bin Laden, the 9/11 mastermind, has escaped into Pakistan. It's basically a montage of all news clippings, is basically what the script is telling you. So, without obvious U.S. military presence, the Middle East has escalated into images of the Iraq War, dead children, depleted uranium defects, newspaper clipping record, Henry Kissinger quote, depopulation should be the highest priority of the U.S. foreign policy towards the third world. You guys kind of get where it's going. But yeah, I thought those use of the montages are pretty cool. That's probably one of the closer things that, stuck to the concept trailer.
Yeah. That was done well. There was a lot of things that I thought were done very, very well, and that was one of them. It was like a kind of like a a Red Dawn movie. It's kind of what it kind of felt like, you know, and
Right. Without that big Red Dawn moment, you know.
without the people parachuting from the sky that we were
Yeah.
all hoping for, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. It's like, I don't know, it kind of has at least this version of the script, I'll say, kind of just has a weird effect about it, where like it ends up. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit later, but it ends up being those UN soldiers. And have you seen Bushwick on Netflix?
I haven't. No.
Check that out. That one, it's somewhat similar concept, and Bushwick obviously takes place in Bushwick, Brooklyn, New York. So it's basically something quite similar to what a Gray State or a Red Dawn would be, but it's Dave Bautista, and it is like in New York. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a neighborhood for neighborhood kind of revolution, revolt kind of thing. If you guys haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you, but
Sounds good.
I would say Bushwick is the closest thing like on camera that we have to Gray State. You know what I mean? And I think this Gray State script, even though Bushwick, it's a Netflix film, it's simple. It's not like it's not crazy big budget. You know what I mean? Of like what you would need for a all out second American Revolution. You know what I mean? Just to go, you know, completely 2 hours of like Expendables level of violence. But this I think would do. The other thing is, with this taking place in like Minneapolis and in the Twin Cities, and I'm gonna once again, being the guy who is 100% on the indie perspective and 98% of my other reviews, I'm gonna go lean on the side of Hollywood on this side, which is like a side that I never take. But I think it might have been good for this to be just relocated to New York or LA, because I think more people can relate to it if it's like a major like coastal city. If it's like out there in Minneapolis, unless you're one of the guys that was on the Gray State crew that can like relate to a small indie film out there, I just don't know how many people are like, oh, the Mall of America is out there. Like, that's one of the only things people know about it. You know what I mean? So that's like, again, I know it's a little bit cliche having every movie take place in LA or New York, a la Terminator or every other thing that does that. But at the same time, though, I'm not sure many people can relate to the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. You know what I mean? If I'm wrong, guys, kill me in the comments. You know what I mean? If you're from out there and you think I'm way off on this base, leave your feedback, dude. We'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that too. But again, it's
Yeah.
like, well, how many times can you do the same two cities, like you were saying,
Yeah.
the same two big cities?
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice. And I think if David would have made this film on his own, it would have been perfect, because he's there. He already
Yeah, and that's what I mean. On a small local scale of shooting, it makes sense. But like, if they throw $30-40 million at you, does MEG still want it? Like, you know what I mean? That's where you're going to run into that thing. But like Greg said, dude, maybe relocate it to Detroit or Chicago. Like the Dark Knight trilogy is shot in Chicago, and it looks great because of that Gothic architecture. So maybe go with that. Maybe if you like, we want to keep kind of the Midwestern thing, mountain Western thing.
Yeah, I think the mics, they actually, that was one of their notes for David, is it was too regional, and it needed to be more bigger. So yeah, they were right on point.
And that's what Hollywood always says, is that, like me and Greg said, like, whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know. But again, maybe if you're able to say like, okay, like Denver, Chicago, Detroit, like, you know what I mean? Show kind of those. Maybe you can do it in another way. That's what I would look for. It's like, you want what's in between to keeping it as pure as David wanted, because that was his big thing, purity. But like, yeah, Greg said, like, we don't want to see it shot on like Sunset Boulevard, because then it loses like the the grit of what Gray State is. You know what I mean? If it's literally shot like, you know what I mean, at like, I don't know, you know what I mean, Bill Gates' mansion or something. Oh. So yeah, those montages are cool. So the RFID chips, that I would say is from the concept trailer, right? So they did have that in there. The scan's pretty good. I do like that.
Yeah, that's a big part of the whole story. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely interesting, and some kind of like FEMA camp thing going on there, which is what you'd expect.
That was crazy. That was a horrible scene. Yeah, with the FEMA camp, and they're separating people. Some people were going over here. Some people. I wanted to know more about that. There was a lot of stuff that are like hinted at that I was like, wow. I really want to know who's separating these people. Why are some people going over here? What happens to them?
Hmm.
And there really wasn't a lot of that. There's a very dark scene with the main character's sister, I think,
Hmm.
and it felt like, she basically gets raped, basically,
Yep.
in this prison, and there was no payoff for that. I felt like that scene didn't that would have been the first scene that I would have cut, because it
Yeah.
doesn't move the story on. There's nothing that happens to these girls that do this to this girl here. So it was just kind of, there were a few scenes like that I felt like they were unnecessary. The two main characters are, they're making out and they're having sex
Yeah.
and all, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't know. They don't even know each other. And here they
Okay.
are.
So this is where I would get like the indie versus Hollywood narrative, like Greg was saying, like inserting like a love story, like based on what you see on the concept trailer. You figure there would not be one in there, but of course, if Hollywood's going to pick up this project, it's going to have to add one, because there's always a
Yeah.
love story in every Hollywood movie. Like in something that's like what was pitched to us as the Second American Revolution, I think it's totally unnecessary. I think you just make an action movie, or if this is some sort of pseudo political thriller, then you just do that. And if you want to leave that as like a like seventh string subplot, and whatever, the girl from his reservation. I mean, I will say, I agree. I don't think the love story works, but I do like the tribal themes. That's one thing. I think that I would keep if I would do this story. You know what I mean? I would keep that, the tribal theme of the original indigenous peoples of North America. And even that I felt wasn't fully developed. It's like his character is half, and they have the references to like his father and going back to the reservation or whatever, his flashbacks of growing up on the reservation, spoiler alert. And then it kind of throws back to it towards the end, like you were saying. But I feel like it was never fully realized. What I wanted was a metaphor that like the totalitarian government is now oppressing all of the people of America, formerly America rather, and that is how the natives were oppressed when the white colonizers came here and exterminated the natives. It's like what we want to see is that mythos fully developed, that the extermination of the Holocaust of the original indigenous peoples is now going to become the Holocaust of everybody, because you allowed them, that whole saying of like, what was that, Jordan Maxwell, whoever said, it's probably an older quote, when they came from this group, you know what I mean? I didn't say anything. They came from that group. I didn't say anything. When they came for me, there was nobody left to speak up for me. It's that's the metaphor we want to see with the tribal people. The white man exterminated the indigenous people and allowed that machine to keep gaining power, and the government overreach, and now it'll ultimately basically exterminate everybody because you continue to allow it to gain power unchecked. You know what I mean? And maybe it's just, again, because this is such like an early revision, but I figured that would be like a key point when you hear like gray state and the character is half native. You think that would be like a key subplot, and again, no payoff, not fully realized. But I love the whole tribal thing because it's never used, especially in Hollywood. They don't touch it, probably for obvious reasons. Although you think now with the whole woke culture, it would be you think that every character would be a native. You know what I mean? I expect that to be the next thing that Hollywood would latch itself onto and completely exploit. So
Yeah, probably. They're probably running out of things, running out of new ideas.
just haven't gotten to it yet. I mean, they tried to with Avatar, but like they just didn't fully realize it. I think on page 15 there was like a crazy explosion. I think that was pretty good. So the other thing I expected with David's like veteran, background of like the extreme realism of the military situations. At least this is what he was talking about with the interview with us. Page 20, Daniel Walker, right? He gets leg shot, and then it's like he gets leg shot. He falls out of the Humvee. The next part is like he jumps on top of the Humvee and starts shooting someone. I'm like, what about his leg? Like it didn't say literally any. It said he got shot in the leg, and the very next action he jumped on top of a car and just kept shooting. Which I get, like, yeah, the adrenaline, you could fight through it, but no, dude, you're gonna wince, like you're gonna, you know what I mean, or you're not gonna do that. You're gonna shoot from like laying down, you know what I mean. So that was another thing too, is just like some of the inconsistencies of like they didn't really have full continuity. Like, okay, I would expect in something like this where it's like every situation is life or death, I would expect that you know, everything would have a cause and effect like that. So if you got shot, yeah, it's gonna determine it's gonna limit what your course of action could be, right? So I think that would
so.
yeah.
You would think so, but apparently not. Apparently, this Daniel Walker can just keep getting up and keep on moving. But
Yeah. The tribal magic has made him like a pseudo Terminator. So some of my other notes we kind of already covered. I can't even read what I was trying to write there. The definitely a stronger main character, and I don't know if that was due to the relationship of the writer and co-writer, and how that probably threw things in a wrench. I think page 33. I think that's the grocery. So yeah, I think we did talk about that. We just more or less the concept trailer scene, which is the empty shelves. Well, I guess that would be a good place to say, what people say makes Joker so good was the relevancy of the civil unrest and have you seen Joker?
I haven't, no.
Basically, well, this is going to be a spoiler for you if you're planning on watching it, but there's a similar riot scene at the end of Joker, which, I mean, there's riot scenes in a lot of stuff now, but people were saying that was a lot like, BLM and the stuff that's currently going on in the current events that are going on with the protests, which, I mean, similar protests were going on when they were doing the Gray State Project. So it's all kind of, I guess, art imitating life, as David said on the interview that he did with us. So that's, I think, would have really, made this so interesting, is the whole George Floyd thing and the BLM thing now, and the protests and the amount of people, even the other protests, a lot of people were doing like the Second Amendment marches and stuff like that. You'd have to wonder if Gray State was completed, because it was literally almost some of that exact same material that was playing out. You know what I mean? And if they could have, I think if someone could have captured that, have you seen? I think they talked about it in the Alex Jones brought it up when David and Danny went on the Jones show. A Scanner Darkly, the Richard Linklater. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a Scanner Darkly does a somewhat good job of it. I think Catherine had a question for you. A Scanner Darkly does a good job of it at that time, because, man, I don't know what that was, like 2006 or before that when it came out, 2005, 2006. And, you had like Alex Jones in there. You had the whole NSA thing of all the computers watching everybody's house and everything. And I'm pretty sure that is before Snowden came out with everything that he came out with, saying that, like, yeah, it is really going along, it's illegal, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that was just a good situation of it lining up where someone actually made like a super relevant film that, addressed the issue at the time, which was, the whole, I guess, overreach, or what would you call that? NSA tracking everybody. I forget what the word for it is. But yeah, it's the similar type of thing. Or I guess, people brought up Mr. Robot somewhat addresses that. I've only seen one episode of that, but I guess that's about like hacking and, similar kind of thing, you know what I mean? The government overreach.
I haven't seen, but there's a lot of movies out there like that kind of touch on all of this stuff now. It's weird how many are coming out that are very, very similar to what David was talking about. So maybe there were a lot of people that were capitalizing, on that. A lot of B-roll movies.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I expected a lot more. When this whole situation ended the way it did, I was like, oh man, that's over. I was going to be like, Gray State is going to be like the new genre that they're just going to exploit. But it's because the material is so hardcore. Most people don't want to touch that government conspiracy. I mean, there's like you said, there are movies and shows about it and stuff. But again, no one has ever gone all the way in on it. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we've all been saying. No one has ever gone, especially like the whole Hollywood thing, the cabal thing, some of the other stuff you mentioned. No one's ever gone 100% in on it. And that's what, kind of makes Gray State so interesting. And then obviously what happened behind the scenes makes it like, the never ending question, you know what I mean? So the tone of the dialogue, I kind of mentioned this earlier. Some parts are like really good, where like Daniel Walker has those good, like kind of revolutionary one-liners, and he kind of does become that kind of like revolutionary messiah figure, where he has like these good lines about like liberty. But then other parts of it are just like stale and just like not up to par. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I was at. Did you have any thoughts on the dialogue, or just like kind of overall?
Yeah, I think the dialogue was, it was It wasn't bad. I think that's actually what kind of kept the story, kind of pushed things forward for me, because there was a lot of scenes where I'm like, where is this going? Where is this going? And
Yeah.
by the end, by the last the very last scenes, I'm like, what did I just read? Because it was just all over the
Yeah.
place, and I was
That's
like,
how I felt.
what are they doing? What
That's
it
how.
kind of they go back, and then he's talking about stuff as another scene is happening, and I
Yeah.
was like, how is
Yeah.
this guy in two places at once and here?
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then I don't know how much spoilers you want to give on this script, on the 2014 script.
Yeah. There's no breakdown of it on YouTube. I say go all the way in. I mean,
I mean,
it's a little bit outdated now.
the main character dies.
Yeah.
So he dies at the very end, and you're kind of left with, okay, now what? Now what happens? So I was a little bit confused on that one. I believe he dies, right?
He
Yeah, he
does
dies.
die, but I think in this V6 version, we can revisit it when we get to the end. I believe.
He doesn't die in that one.
I think they might have left it unopened in one version, but yeah, basically he is injured and he kind of fades out. I think is what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then yeah, so I think yeah, and again yeah, which is okay. I mean, I kind of honestly, I kind of expected that from Gray State because like when you watch the concept trailer, they're going up against like entire battalions of like what I mean, Navy SEALs. They're launching like RPGs and tanks at them and stuff. So if you want to be realistic about it, like if you think a guy's going to make it through 2.5 hours of that, like unless he has like the Iron Man suit, it's I don't know. I mean, like a revolution of a dude going up against, think about it, the entire government. It kind of does make some sense. But
sure.
at the same
After he was shot in the
right.
leg too, because that happens pretty early on, I believe. He gets shot.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, again, you'd have to come up with a way that, like, like I guess that girl wasn't that girl with him. Oh no, she wasn't a surgeon. She was like the hospital owner, but she knew how to do some stuff. But yeah, you'd have to come up with a way like she pulled out like the round and like completely stitched it back up, and then even still with no recovery, that would be like if you had 2 weeks to just completely recover. But again, if you're going to continue directly through the entire mission, I have to assume that would have some effect on you. Well, it's just funny because I remember like before, I think it was like somewhat more recently after we had both read it when we did the last show with you guys, and you were like, yeah, dude, you're like, I thought it was really good, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I did not think it was really good, just because some of those things were so unfocused, like you mentioned. But I will say, on the second reading, I did get drawn in a bit more, and I did like it a bit more. But it's just because the first time I was thrown in so many different directions, I was like, it just feels super unfocused, and I was like, I can't follow this.
Yeah, I'll be curious to hear.
Good.
I was going to say I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the 2013 script because it is closer to the 2012 trailer.
Yeah.
So I'll be very curious to hear that.
Once you definitely send that to me. We'll do a part 2 show on this. I mean, guys, what do you want us to cover? You know what I mean? If you leave your feedback below, you know what I mean? I'm trying to do a deep dive on this script because everybody always says I saw the movie or where can I saw the movie, and none of you guys are right. So this is if you want to see the movie, you go to the Justice for David Crowley group and download the script, and that's the closest you'll get, at least in this form. You know what I mean? To do it. So again, going along with like what I expected with the other thing is I don't really think that was like nailed. Kind of was what we were expecting from the concept trailer and the other promos that they leaked of like Danny's character going through the woods with the tomahawks is like the survivalism. I expected like this to be like a pre-apocalyptic super action Red Dawn, but I really wanted to see that survivalism theme, and I think they could have doubled down on that a bit more to show him to be more resourceful. I mean, I guess you could always say like there was like Rambo First Blood is really like the survivalism film of like going out there with like nothing but like a knife, and I think he pretty much had nothing else with him when he went out there in the first time. But yeah, exactly, like a freaking piece of tarp, and you know what I mean, no shirt and a knife. So I really think that they could have used a little bit of Rambo First Blood for this, and nailed that survivalism. Like show them, purifying their own water and boiling their, like how they have to survive out there with nothing. Like I think that would be cool, because to say like all the authorities are looking for you, you're a man on the run, your face is all over every like TV, but you can just go to like any encampment and just stay there as long as you want. They're not going to come there, especially when, you know, everything is being, you know, tracked via satellite. Everything is being tracked via technology. It's like, that'll leave you limited options, right? You have to have absolutely no computers on you and be out in the wilderness. That's just my opinion. You know what I mean? If I'm wrong, kill me in the comments. So the RFID theme, I do like the whole microchip implant mark of the beast thing, but there's no failsafe. So when Daniel Walker started cutting out his and started, you know, his sister and every other character he met up with, and they're just like, hey, cut it out and just leave it there. And they're like, oh man, he cut the RFID chip out. We can't track him. It's like, dude, come on. They'd probably be putting 2 or 3 on every one of their little slaves, like Greg was saying at the FEMA camp, or there would be something stopping you. So let's say, like, if you cut it out, like you get like shocked with electric charge, or you know what I mean, like, or it would blow up and blow your arm off. That would stop people from cutting them out. You know, I assume if they're going through the whole motion of microchipping every person, it wouldn't just be like, hey, I gotta go break free and just cut it like out of my wrist and then I can just walk away. You know what I mean? Like if it's a for real totalitarian, you know, look at the other kind of like totalitarian movies you have, like Dark City or Equilibrium, or you know what I mean? It's like a totally locked down society. So you're not expecting, if this is a more realistic thing, that it would be easier to just cut the chip out and get away. That's my only point. Like, really, you know, again, like Greg was saying, we want to see this character struggle. Like, this isn't a Marvel movie. You know what the plot of a Marvel movie is? A superhero gets his superpower, fights a small struggle, and then goes up against a villain and beats them. That they made 50 movies like that, and we don't want to see like a survivalist, like Rambo kind of, you know, anti, you know, ex-military, like kind of patriot freedom fighter character. Like, we really want to see him struggle and fight through, and that's what makes the plot. Like, that's what makes the character's strength, like Greg was saying, and that's what makes their story arc and all that stuff. So, like, I really want to see him get pressed, not like I got shot in my leg and then I freaking cartwheeled over a Humvee. Like, no, dude. Like, and same thing with cutting out the RFID chip. Like, I really want to see him get pressed. You know what I mean? To show. And this is the guy who killed Osama bin Laden. And that's the problem with giving him that origin. Like, okay, you killed this famous like terrorist, like Greg was saying. Now we're expecting you to be a badass. So you need to get through all these other situations. You know what I mean? Like,
yep. Yeah, I was kind of waiting for a lot of things. I never felt the danger for that character.
That's my point.
For any of the characters.
Really. That's my point. That's my point.
It was just kind of like, okay, you kind of know, you know, I need to care about this character, and I just never got that.
That's just that, and, you know, okay, it's got to be one or the other. It's either I care about him and fighting the revolution, or I hate that villain. You know what I mean? Because as long as you really hate that tyrant, it's like, okay, well then I just got to see that guy go down. But he wasn't evil enough to hate him, and Daniel wasn't good enough to that's why Catherine's really she's going in on me on him getting shot on the leg. He was a badass. That's why he jumped over the Humvee after being shot. Like, okay, like that works for the first 90 seconds of the script, but once you've been bleeding for like 10 weeks straight, then it's like it's gonna take the toll on your body. You know what I mean? According to my notes, we have a pretty good revolution line on page 72. Let me see if I could bring that up for you guys, because we haven't done much dialogue. Let's see where it's at.
Revolution will not be televised. Is that the?
It might be. It's something about HD, isn't it? Apparently, I said it was on page 72, but I don't even see it on there. I don't know if you. Oh wait, no, maybe it's. Oh, right here, 71. Daniel, would you make peaceful revolution impossible? You make violent revolution inevitable. Now that he has like 3 or 4 lines like that are fire. If he could have had one of those every act, well, I guess basically he does. But you know what I mean? Double down on it. Yeah, if he had some. That's a good line. You know what I mean? And I would like to see more of that from him, because having those 4 or 5 good lines and then having like 75% like filler, like Greg said, it just brings me back to like, okay, you know, I don't really care territory, and then it doesn't matter what happens after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there were too many characters that I just did not have any. I didn't care about them, you know, and
Right,
that's
right.
you can't, especially the main character. Like I
Mhm.
need to be invested. I need to either really like him or really hate him.
That's
And
the whole thing.
I was just kind of wishy washy on it. So
I think what they could have did, and bringing that up is like, you know, what would have been cool is like a more like Shakespearean thing, like almost. This is probably the route I would go. Like I'm going to keep bringing up what I would do, guys. And you could kill me in the comments if you think that there's no way I could possibly do better, but you know that'll just motivate me. Like an anti-hero thing, like when he was when he killed Osama bin Laden, like he was all about it, you know what I mean, like
right,
him being like right wing or like alt right, like that would be cool. And like he's all about the system, but then he sees something that switches him, so he goes the other way, you know what I mean. Like I think that seeing him change his allegiance, I think that would have been an interesting like story arc, which I guess is kind of what they hinted at, but again, I don't really feel it in what is written.
yeah. There was the whole false flag scene where this main character gets blamed for this bombing. It was kind of like I don't know. I didn't really buy it, and I
Yeah,
didn't
I agree.
understand what it was. I was like, is that because of Osama bin Laden? Like,
Right.
so had to blame him for something. They had to
Yeah,
take
I
him
agree. I
out.
agree. I had the
I didn't.
same question, and again, I'll tell you why it doesn't work because, like you said, nowadays with the internet, with this whole like dark web, Reddit kind of YouTube online revolution thing, you know, if they went and put out that false story, but the thing is starting to crack now because the Gen Pop is starting to understand the fake news and the mind control, and they're starting to understand that the narrative that the system is putting out like isn't really the truth.
Right.
He could have taken a cell phone that day, uploaded a video like, no, that's not true. They're trying to frame me for the da 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 da. Put that out on the dark web. It would have went live on you. Even like all these other movies where they're doing stuff like that now, like zombie movies, and you know what I mean. It's such like a current phenomenon where like you know a person puts out a global message and it instantly goes viral. You know, Twitter, da 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 da. You like you said, you would have think he could have put out a message instantly, you know, saying it was a false narrative or a false flag or whatever, and it would have instantly went viral, and then he could have instantly got the people back on his side. You know what I mean? So it kind of would have defeated the whole point of the terrorists that did the false bombing, and we're all after him now. You know what I'm saying? Like it would have easily been nullified. I think you know.
Right. And that the CIA person in the very first scene, I kind of expected more from that person too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't think she comes back in the
It's
script.
like, where did the CIA go after all the, you know what I mean? Like they just gave up, like, oh, we only hunt terrorists. We don't care if it's a domestic issue. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I think, according to my other notes, Lovegood's death. I think that was a pretty good death. Not sure where that is because I don't have a page stamp on that. But yeah, I mean, as Greg said, like the fights are really good, and probably the you know the hand-to-hand combat and the fight choreography. I think that's the strength. That's definitely like you know David's background at the time. I guess Danny's background when he was involved in whatever capacity. And again, I expected to see more of that, like you know. The Jeet Kune Do and stuff like that, because that's a style that's never really been on screen besides like Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon, and what year is that? You know what I mean? So I think it would have been cool to, again, it's all elements that were pitched to us that I think would have been amazing if tied together correctly. You know what I mean? Like the military background stuff, the historical accuracy, the firearms and you know weapons technical, you know, historical accuracy, and then the Jeet Kune Do and the you know the revolution. I think it all could have been awesome if brought together, but I just, at least in these versions, I don't see it brought together that way. But
That's too bad. That's too bad too. You know, it's a
yeah, I mean,
missed opportunities.
exactly. And I'm not saying putting the nail in the coffin on it either. I'm just saying this is probably an early version that was unfinished. Or if David could have sat down with Oliver Stone or someone that's super, you know, like you're talking about the guy who wrote, you know, Scarface and Conan and all that stuff. Like if he really could have, I think, zeroed in with somebody like that. Or, I mean, it didn't even have to be somebody on that level, but just someone that's kind of like an expert that really knows what they're doing. Sure. I think somebody could have really developed it and be like you said, like, hey, these characters basically serve no point. Axe those guys out. you know, these guys are really good, focus, you know, double down on them and develop the arcs more. You know what I mean? Just like little simple things like that, really, I think would have made all the difference here and gone a long way. I guess in it, part of it's my fault, guys. I had ridiculously high hopes for this because I just based off that concept trailer, I expected that we were going to see the most epic thing that ever happened. And Red Dawn is cool, but Red Dawn is the first PG. What did Red Dawn come out? 84. It's the first PG-13 movie at the time, so it's an epic concept, but it's not an R-rated Red Dawn. You know what I mean? And Gray State could have been an R-rated Red Dawn. I mean, you know, like Greg said, with the fear porn, what do you do with the Gray State? Do you double down on the violence and just make it as ultra violent and Grindhouse as possible, and just be like, okay, well, you're showing the government taking out its own population? Is there any PG-13 or lower rating way to do that when every scene is going to have violence in it? Or do you just double down on it and make it what it is? And it's like, I guess like we said before, it's kind of weird that no one has done it, you know what I mean? Or has even tried, other than like, you know, A Scanner Darkly is like a totally different thing. It's like a slow paced, like, you know, more like dystopian thing that focuses more on like the narcotics and the addiction themes than this, which would have, you know, the revolution and the uprising and, you know, kind of all that stuff.
It kind of makes me wonder if David's death was a warning for people that may want to do something similar, that may have tried it. You know, it's like, not going to do that. I mean, that's, you know, I really think if David would have done it himself, if he would have made the movie, that was his backup plan. From what he was
do it indie, for sure.
Do it indie, and so I also wonder that too. If he would have done that, would he still be here with us today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. It's hard to say, like, you know, something like that. You know what I mean? It's such a difficult situation. But I honestly, I would have liked to have seen it indie, because I would have liked to have seen it totally uncut, where Hollywood's not going to tell you like you can't do this. Now, okay, you wouldn't have the budget, but you know, and that's the thing. I know at some point, some internet geniuses were arguing with you guys about what could be due on the budget. Like, you know, the way that they cheated the concept trailer, you know, you could probably get away with it for like 30-40 million. I'd have to look at what Bloodshot is. I think Vin Diesel Bloodshot, I think, is only around 50-60 million or less than that. But I would like to see Gray State on a higher budget than Bloodshot. I'd like to see Gray State on like a $60-70 million budget. But it's just tough. Hollywood has tightened the strings, and they don't want to, especially for an unknown project like that. It's not like it's based on some famous video game, or doesn't have a pre-existing fan. I mean, it does have a pre-existing indie fan base on social media, but it doesn't have like a Gray State, you know, like an entertainment pop culture fan base, like a Gray State the series kind of fan base. And they don't want to like throw a big, especially when they're like, you're talking about what? Overthrowing the government and an Illuminati cabal and all this and that. So it's like, you know what I mean? That's where they kind of get a little bit weird on it. So the other bad guys are who? It's like Stack and Pepper and Bowen. I think Bowen has a cool quote here on looks like I wrote it down on 102, but dealing with PDFs, guys, is not easie.
No. There's two separate numbers. There's a page number and then there's the PDF.
Yeah, exactly. They always tell you it's on one page, but they never quite keep it real. What was the line? I think it was this one. If I had one thing to gain by pulling your guts out of your mouth with this hand, I would do it. So you have Pepper and Bo in there. They kind of they go back and forth. They're kind of like the I guess the system you know, kind of G-men or whatever. And Stack. So we'll get back to them in a second. But yeah, so Daniel had like these two girls, right? Like Mallory and Jay. And he like kind of has like a relationship with like both of them, as you were saying. And like neither one of the relationships really culminate into anything, which is why the love story subplot does not work. It's like, okay, he's just a random ladies man that's in the middle of the revolution, and again, it just doesn't really work for me. So I didn't love that either. And again, I think that's some things where like, again, like the tribal subplot that could be realized much better. That one, they don't need that at all. You know, there's certain things that you said that need to be moved to the forefront and certain things that just need to be removed. Unless, like you said, indeed, if it's not a feature film and it's series 1 of a series that can renewed, then yes, then you have a long form format where you have more space to develop these other characters, like you said, who didn't culminate to anything in this story. There, you know, you could keep them around, like you said, his sister in the FEMA camp or something. She can come up in season 2 and get revenge and blah blah blah. So you can, like, you know, we were saying, you can leave all those unopened questions, and you could, because you'll have space to develop them more. But if it's just a finite story from start to finish, then you have all these, like, you know, unopened doors that just, you know, it shows them at this one point, then it goes back to focusing on his main story, and it just follows him to the end, and these other characters are just, you know, they come and go and don't have really any purpose, you know what I mean? And that's at least how it seems with this. But I would really like to check that other one for sure. I'm gonna read that ASAP.
I think you'll find it fascinating. My guess is that you'll probably like that one better than this one. That's my guess.
Yeah,
that one was written. Danny August Mason does have a writing credit on that 2013 one, but not on this 2014 one. This is all David here. So,
interesting.
It's a completely different story. You can think of the 2013 as a Stephen King. Think of the 2014 script as a Tom Clancy. It's really completely different. It could be a sequel. You know, you could almost have both of them in there, but it looks like what David did is he took two characters from the 2013 script, the two main characters, the Charles Hubble character from the 2012 trailer, the Danny August Mason character, and he rolled them into one person with this Daniel Walker. So that was my take on it. But I just needed more. I mean, and after after it was done, I was like, that's it. Okay, now what? You know, because obviously you want to leave some space open, and I don't know. But the 2013 is even worse. It's a lot worse than that, as far as, you know, the plot twist at the end. David, you could tell he was trying to do something at the end. It just wasn't. It just wasn't there. Maybe visually, maybe it would have been better. You know, if we would have seen it, maybe I would understand it more.
Yeah. I would agree. You know what? You said my words exactly what I was thinking. So, like, some of these certain things, like, it just come off so awkward, you know, reading it on text, because it's just so bland and dry. And you think, like, that's what I was saying. If it's shown to you on screen with a really good performance, and, you know, you have the actor to sell it to you, you know, blah blah blah, it could go smoother. But I totally agree. There is a grimy, let's see if I can find it. There's a grimy throat cutting at 1:15. I think that's right after the twist. And I do want to cover that twist as well, because
now, is that 113 on the PDF or the page?
It's 1:15 on the
PDF.
PD. Yeah, that's a good question.
Pull that up here.
Maybe it's, yeah. Right. Oh yeah, it's Preston. Preston's there. It's I think it's what's the guy's name? John
Masterson.
Who isn't his dad? John. That's his dad, right? The dude from the reservation. So I'm pretty sure he came back good. He was like scalping people at the end, if I'm not mistaken. Which yeah, you know, I'm all about that. I think they should have had them scalp everybody, man. That would have been poetic justice for the natives, right, guys? Come on. Show me some love in the comments. Yeah, I believe it's like when the elevator is closing.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool scene. That's where one of the big fights happen. I think the final fight happens right there, which I thought that was really cool. Thought that was done very, very well.
Yeah, I like that one too.
And then they go up to the helicopter and all that. I could visualize a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, And that's the thing too. I would have liked to seen the whole military conspiracy aspect fully realized, like you said, like the Tom Clancy themes, because that's even like obviously Tom Clancy's not around anymore. Matter of fact, I thought they were not going to be allowed to use his name anymore, but like a few more projects did come out that still said Tom Clancy. So I don't know if that was his estate or who made that call, but yeah, again, like like a clear and present danger or a Patriot games, you know what I mean? I would have liked to seen more of that in there too. The problem is like David like didn't really like watch any of that stuff. Like we asked him about They Live when he was on with us. You've seen They Live, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're a wrestling guy, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. They Live is. I should pull out my copy. I have it autographed by Roddy Piper. I'm a ridiculous. I met him.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have the picture on my Twitter. I'm a ridiculous They Live fanboy. Like, oh my gosh, I'm such a fucking dork for that movie. And man, that movie's awesome. And so, because we were just telling him about like the subliminals and like, dude, like to come in this space and try to do like the I'm gonna do the dystopian. The government is like, I'm like, Piper did that in '88. You know what I mean? So it's not like, okay, you might not actually put the whole all out alien theme of putting the glasses on and seeing who's human and who's not, but. That's another thing too, is like, what I'm saying, he probably didn't watch a lot of the Clancy stuff, you know what I mean? Just because he figured like I have real world veteran experience, so what do I need to watch like Tom Clancy movies for? But I mean, as far as the pacing and the character and plot development, like there is a lot to that Tom Clancy formula, the way it's freaking entertaining, dude. Like, you know how many times Harrison Ford has sold me a role that I have been all in on, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about Air Force One here, but dude, what's Clear Present Danger? Come on now, man. That thing is good. Yeah. That was crazy. So like that's the other thing. It's like you have the tribal theme, you have the military industrial complex, which would be like a Tom Clancy or Oliver Stone. You have the revolution. You have the dystopian. Like if all of those plot points could have been wielded together to have the ultimate culmination, I think you would have had what everybody was expecting. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Right. Did David see They Live when you talked with him?
No, he said he hadn't seen it, but he said he would check it out. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm shocked.
Isn't that crazy? I was trying to tell him because when people try to say like, oh, I'm gonna make the first conspiracy film, I'm like, you're not making the first conspiracy film, dude. Like John Carpenter. Now, that's the thing with Grindhouse movies. Like a lot of people aren't gonna take it seriously, right? Because it's sci-fi and it's aliens and it's Carpenter and it's Piper. But dude, the whole thing, like I can send you some breakdowns, or if you're familiar with the film, you might have already seen of John Carpenter talking about that. The whole source material for They Live is, the whole 80s and 90s, Reagan, Nixonian, communism, like all of that stuff that's going on. That's, that's like what They Live is, much like Star Wars, if you talk about like, where George Lucas got that, it's like, 1940s, communism, Nazism, all the same thing that influenced Star Wars, influenced They Live. So it's like, not everybody will catch it, because if it's Roddy Piper blowing away aliens with a shotgun, most people are just going to dismiss it instantly. You know what I mean? But there's a message there. There's a message there, people. You can learn a lot from 80s sci-fi films. But anyway, I'm actually, you know what? Because when this uploads and it processes, we can add the end titles and the cards. I'm going to put the Roddy Piper subliminal scene right here for you guys from They Live. If you've never seen the scene when he puts the glasses on and he goes outside and looks at the billboards, and that's where you get the whole sleep thing and the consume and all those, like you probably, the Obey brand, what's that? God, that's the famous artist guy that does the Obey clothes, right? That whole Obey thing, that is from They Live, you know what I mean? He just kind of took it and made it a trend, which is actually funnier because of what They Live's about with consumerism and and then it literally happening, you know what I mean, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember all the people meeting down in the basements and stuff like that, or underground. Yep. We know about these underground bunkers that we keep hearing about. It's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. Stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. Man, I don't know what I was talking about in my notes. I cannot find that scene, but I know it was
somebody gets cut.
Yeah, somebody gets like their throat cut, like gurgling out blood.
I think it is towards the end. Really,
Preston. There it is. Yeah. Okay, was it Literally right at the top of the page, guys. This is probably the last time you guys are going to have me do a script deep dive. Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. Says literally the first line, 115. The door closes on him. As the knife plunges into Preston's kidney, he screams. As the elevator starts to move down, Mallory could hear Preston's throat being cut. So that's when, that's when John came in there and started scalping everybody. It looks like Preston got smoked pretty badly. So that was great. So before we get to the twist, I do want to talk about probably what was my favorite scene before that ending is the dead zone. That was sick. That whole kind of quarantined, unoccupied area, which is that part when they go to it's like the burnt out cars and the feral dogs and stuff. That was really badass. I could see that coming across on screen really well. I think that was probably one of the best scenes. That's the kind of stuff that I expected to see. You know what I mean? That was the one kind of scene where I was like, it had that darkness and the grimy kind of grit to it, and you know, seeing the result of the abuse of technology and power. You know what I mean? And seeing that fully manifested and realized as kind of the blown out cars and buildings. You know what I mean? Kind of reminded me of Army of the Dead, which just dropped on Netflix. Only that movie sucked, but you know what I mean. If you could take out, it was I wasn't into it, man. I had such high hopes because Snyder did Dawn of the Dead back in the day. You know what I mean? I like zombies, and it's a similar kind of whole thing. You know what I mean? It could have been a similar style, and the whole idea of like Vegas being quarantined is missed opportunity. You know what I mean? It's something. If you watch the trailer, you're like, oh, that would be pretty good, and then you watch like 2 hours of it, and you realize like, they showed me the best 5 minutes in the trailer. You know what I mean? It's you can save a bunch of time just by running the trailer. You know what I mean? That's why. That's
too bad because I like Dave Bautista. Obviously,
no, he's a man. And since you like him, I'm gonna go ahead and recommend that you watch Bushwick again because that was like taking the good parts of like Army of the Dead and taking Bautista and using him what he's good at. And then I also can't wait for Dune. You watch some sci-fi yourself, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I don't know if are you familiar with Dune, Frank Herbert?
I'm not. No.
Yeah.
I know it's based on books.
Yeah. I think you would like it. It's super complicated. It's a big thing of like philosophy and religion and myth. And again, Gray State could have probably used a lot of Dune. Dune has a lot of indigenous, tribal themes, but the tribal faction on Dune, it's basically I'll wrap it up really quick for you guys because I know it's not this is not a Dune program, it's Gray State, but if you guys are into sci-fi, I'm telling you, and you like Gray State, you probably would like Dune because it's insane. It's a desert planet where there's a resource called spice that is addicting, and it basically gives you these psychic powers. So every known faction in the known universe is going to Arrakis, which they call Dune because it's a desert planet, to mine the spice. And what that causes is like a balance of power because the Imperial Empire and all the factions that control it, they're all trying to like backstab each other and get the spice. So, but that being said, there's an indigenous race who lives on the planet called the Fremen. You could say that's like a, metaphor for freemen, and it's just interesting. Like that author is just super complicated. There's even a lot of Star Wars influence that comes from it. Catherine said she has the book, so she probably knows what I'm talking about. But again, anyway, I brought up Dune because Dave Bautista is in the new Dune that's coming out.
Really?
It's had production issues, but it's supposed to be epic. It's the director of Denis Villeneuve, the director of Blade Runner 2, Blade Runner 2049. So I don't know. Yeah, and he also directed Sicario. I don't know if you've seen those, but if you like political kind of Tom Clancy style thrillers like Greg was talking about, check out Sicario 1 and Sicario 2. There's that again, I would have loved to have seen some like Tom Clancy or some Sicario in Gray State. Although Sicario, I think, came out after all this stuff was in development, but that Sicario would give you an idea of like what a Gray State would look like with like what's the dude's name? Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin. You know what I mean? And Brolin's in Dune as well. So anyway, yeah, Bushwick and Dune. Those are for Greg.
So where do you think David Crowley went wrong? When did you start to kind of? When did you're reading this and you're like, was it from the very start that you're like, this is not very good, or when did you?
Right off the bat, I
Really?
don't like that. I don't like that Afghanistan intro. Like when I was in, I'm like, I get the whole Bin Laden thing, and I get the whole Tom Clancy CIA conspiracy thing, but it wasn't realized. It wasn't realized in a JFK style format. You've seen JFK from Stone?
Mm-hmm. Love it.
He lays it out to you that, like, the CIA is here, the FBI is here, they're working in conjunction, they're all involved, they have their hands in this, but they don't look at that, you know what I mean? It is very complicated, but it's laid out in a way that's like very meticulous. And then in this stuff, it throws this stuff at you because it's like, well, it's the conspiracy world, so it's Osama bin Laden. It's the CIA, but they don't pop up again and do anything for the rest of the thing. It's the UN who comes in, but like obviously the CIA is playing the UN in some way because they have to take what they need out of them, just like the UN has to take what they need out of the CIA. So I want to see them play, that's the Tom Clancy thing is the whole international, or the James Bond MI5, the 007 Daniel Craig. I want to see that international conspiracy. And you know what else is totally devoid from this thing, and I think would be huge right now, and I shouldn't even say this because whatever Hollywood people that, go and research indie channels are going to steal this from me right now and probably make billions. The decentralization of currency in this gray state script, other than having the RFID chip mark of the beast in their wrist, the whole cryptocurrency boom that's going on right now, I would expect to see that in conjunction with this domestic revolution being fought on American soil, that the dollar is crashing, and that's causing some sort of IMF, World Bank, creature from Jekyll Island. You see where I'm going with this Federal Reserve issue, you know what I mean? Because we talked about the Fed Reserve with David in our interview. I would expect to see that Fed Reserve crash in conjunction with this revolution. Like, let's take, I'm from New England, I'm from Boston. I think I've talked about this with Greg and Dan before, so I'm big on revolutionary history. Let's talk about when they, when the Stamp Act and the Boston Tea Party, when they threw the tea in the ocean, right? Let's go on to revolutionary history, and they go to protest the stamp tax. That's how it starts. So they burn down the stamp office, and there's a conspiracy about that as well, saying that like a UFO came out of the sky and burned down that building, and it was all. If you guys watch Ancient Aliens and you dork out with me on History Channel, you know what I'm talking about. But just to say that it happened politically, and it happened really, really by humans. They go and they burn down that stamp office. So when this revolution starts and this guy gets blamed for bombing, the false flag, like you were talking about, and he has the 3%ers, the 3%ers of the revolutionary faction. He has the 3%ers behind you. Why don't the 3%ers have predetermined targets? Why would they not go directly to the Fed Reserve and burn it to the ground, and Fort Knox and all these other places? Even at the end of Fight Club, they burn down the corporate credit card buildings and blow them up to set everybody's, to eliminate everybody's credit card debt. Why would that not be a key component of this revolution, knowing that like financial monetary slavery is one of the main, other than short of the moment when they load you up in the buses and bring you to the FEMA camps, financial slavery is the main form of slavery in the system. You know what I mean? So and even if not that, you think they would have other targets like, federal buildings or whatever, you know what I mean? The Pentagon, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So that's another thing that's kind of completely devoid, is I would expect to see that monetary crash, because that would have an effect on the world markets, the world banks, you know what I mean? The American dollar falling, and then how does the IMF deal with that? How does the World Bank, you know what I mean? That's the other thing that's like, I get it, because you want to take that microscope and you want to put it on what's going on with Walker and his storyline and fighting the revolution against the tyrant, but that's going to have worldwide complications beyond Osama bin Laden and what happened in 2001 with the CIA. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my point, but I could be totally wrong. You guys let me know in the comments. And just kind of the unfocusedness. Like I guess what I was expecting, because that concept trailer got off to speed so fast, like they went to the stores, the stuff was already gone, like you were saying. So, what do they say? Like, within 5 days of the average person not having what they need, they'll turn on you. You know what I mean? So that's extremely rapid, man. I would expect like everyone's going to be at each other's throats in the first week. By 2 weeks, you're looking at like 30-40% of the population, pretty much already probably killing themselves off. Never mind what the government is going to systematically do, going from house to house with soldiers and home invasions and rounding everybody up from the camps. And how many weeks of that going on are people going to start fighting back against the system? You know what I mean? So like that, I expected to see just that very quick collapse and then like the results of it, and it was like I just didn't feel the pace. I think that's what he really needed help with was the pacing. You know what I mean? Just following that character, but like every single place he should be going, he should pretty much be getting ratted on. You think if the government's saying this is a terrorist, they're going to be offering like $1 million reward for his head, you know what I mean, or his whereabouts, you know what I mean. So anyone who sees him on the street's going to be calling up, you know what I mean, that kind of Clockwork Orange kind of, you know what I mean, thing, you know what I mean. So
yeah, and there was really no reason for that bombing too. It's like the bombing there should have been more to it. There was something like in there that
political attack or a target.
Was just like, no, we're just going to blame him for this bombing, and then we're going to go after him casually.
At our own pace. Yeah, he's out there, but we have to round up every person, before we get to him. So blah blah blah. So yeah, there's that whole thing going on too. And I think
they have 126 pages, so obviously they can't get to page 122 or something.
Yeah, that whole thing too. What I would totally expect from this, like you said, is like an extremely unpredictable script, because revolution and uprising is such a okay, there might be those couple planned attack things like you said, like Wasik is our main target, we might have to kill out his top generals and lieutenants, we might have to blow up these whole buildings, and all that stuff could be planned and scheduled. But after that stuff happens, there's probably going to be some unplanned consequences that either some some of the regular revolutionaries get killed, and then the government will blame Walker for his getting his own guys killed, like something like like actual good reason, like you were saying, like something like that. And that's just it's just a really odd pacing, like you said, of okay, it starts off, he breaks out of the thing of what he's doing, and the story kind of gets set in motion. Then they just blame him, like you said, but then there's kind of like a lull for those first like 2 to 3 acts, until it picks back up again when they need to bring in the villains, and okay, we got to start targeting people. And how even realistic would it be to target those generals and that leader that have all the resources in the world? Like you'd almost have to set them up, like you said, like an ambush. Like you'd have to find a way that's gonna somehow bring them to where you need them, to where you can attack them, because otherwise they can just hide in their bunkers, you know what I mean? Or you have to sneak in there, and then that goes back to like realism, unless you're just James Bond with holograms and all of the technical resources and gadgets that you would ever need. And how would you get that on the civilian market? Again, you know what I mean? Like you'd have to have guys on the inside helping him, which does make sense. I mean, that's kind of what they showed you in the trailer, was that like he was going to go against his own orders, and basically you're going to see that faction of the military go against their leaders. And that's also kind of what you expected, but that doesn't really happen either, because he's kind of already defected by the time he does that. So that brings me to what Greg was talking about, the twist. So this, I don't know, like how do you feel about this twist at the end with I think it's this is so Daniel does get captured, you know what I mean? So and which I guess that kind of could be somewhat realistic, because it's what you'd expect with all the people going after him. But let me see here. Yeah, so this is when Bowen. I don't know. I'm gonna let you go. What do you think about this twist?
Yeah, I don't really know how much of a twist that it really was.
Yeah,
and why should I care about it? I was
Yeah.
expecting more. There should have been a better connection between the antagonist and the protagonist, and
Yeah.
it just was
Exactly.
not there. They should have been
Exactly.
family, or there should
Yeah.
have been something, some type of
Yeah.
thing like, why did you set me up? What is going on here? And I just never really got that feeling from it.
And
So
it's maybe it's a little bit Hollywood cliche, as you said, but I totally see your point though, and I feel like this. I guess unless David just thought this was too cliche, but this is an easy way to do it. Daniel Walker is a military veteran. Wasik is like he was like what, like some sort of like general or despot from another country. I think it was Russia or some sort of Eastern European country, Russia or Germany. Which that alone in itself is like a little bit Hollywood cliche, die hard with the Eastern European villain. But given that he's a veteran, how about and you know that he was in Afghanistan? If that's the way that you're already going, double. I can't even talk right now. If that's the way you're going, then this is what you do. How about he knows him from? How about Walker knows him from when he was in that country? Like you said, like Walker had another tour in the country that Wasik is from, and he's seen Wasik like maybe like kill like his friend from his unit, or he's seen him like kill his own people in that country, so he knows he's bad. And then they have a history together. You know what I mean? And then that ties it together. So he already doesn't like him because he's seen him do some grimy stuff from back when he did his tour duty in the military. You know what I mean? Like he killed like I said, maybe some members of his units or his friends, or he just seen him kill his own people. Although that is slightly cliche, it does give them more of a connection. So now they know each other, and now he's in power in his own country. He's in power in Daniel's country. And he already doesn't like him from what's happened in the past. You know what I mean? So now he's like, oh man, I really want to kill that motherfucker. Not only did he put out the false flag on me, he's hunting me, and they're like killing off me and my revolutionary people, but we have a history together. You know what I mean? As you said, I think that's more of a connection than just two guys who don't know each other from a political, coup. You know what I mean? Because there's just nothing. There's it's just okay. They loosely are affiliated through the current event, but
that's about it.
Other than knowing, like you said, why do they care about each other? Other than he's the bad guy and he's the good guy. I think we need a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I was waiting for maybe Wasik didn't want Daniel Walker to kill Osama bin Laden or something, so maybe he was getting him back for that, something like that. I was waiting for a big twist or a big payoff, I guess, really not a twist, but a payoff. And I never really got that feeling that there was a payoff, especially in this the May 12th, 2014 script.
Yeah.
It really is not there. And then you have Daniel he's in two scenes at the same time. He's sitting in front of a camera talking to this Steve, I think it is, who's a news guy, and this lady named Charlotte. And then at the same time, he's got the Wasik guy. He's holding him captive too. And it's just, I don't know. Because it just did not pay off for me, and I was waiting for it. But at least in this script, Daniel does die. I do believe he does die in this.
Yeah, he's got the gun on Wasik, and I think he fades out. Then this is like the V6 one, so this is a little bit weird because it jumps around.
Different. See, I felt like the V6 one was like a rough version of the May 12, 2014.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. For sure. Yeah, it's because I had read that other one first, so I just wanted to read this one just to see what the difference was, or if there was any difference. But here's the thing, because he fades out there at the end. He collapses to the floor, and then there's just a fade out there, and it goes to the news. So is this thing, because Daniel is back here again, but I don't know, is this the pre-recorded thing that they did?
Yeah. When he's sitting in the when he's sitting talking with that.
Okay, yeah. So he does. You're right. He does die in this one
earlier. Yeah, and then he dies with this other guy who, after they pretty much saved the day, and now they got Mr. Wasek, the Patriots come in and everything.
Yeah,
and
yeah, he gets captured.
Yeah, and Daniel's character doesn't live through the thing. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
You know, like he.
Yeah, and I guess that's the whole sacrificing yourself for the revolution theme, which is decent. He's got a.
It kills any sequel or anything. It kills any.
Well, about his character, yeah.
About his character, sure. Right, yeah, and all these other characters that I really don't care about. You know,
you don't want the discount Daniel Walker lieutenant who gets propped up in Gray State 2, just like, hey guys, I wasn't even in the first one, but I'm the main character now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's like watching Grease 1 and then Grease 2. You know, it's like, don't do it. Don't watch Grease 2. It's horrible.
Yeah, I I totally know what you mean there. Daniel has a sick voiceover, page 124 on the script. No one wants to give up everything. Most of us just want to live in peace. And then he's got another one, but freedom is not something you have, it's what you are. And sometimes that's just a scary place to be. Pretty good line. I think that's a scary place to be, could be fixed. But I like that beginning part. Freedom being what you are. I do like the freedom themes, and even those I feel like aren't even quite fully realized. But this is what Greg was saying about like what happened. So there's the city plaza. I think this is like the last scene. A lineup of UN and government officials, Wasik's friends on stools. Someone reads the final recitation. Steve, voiceover. So how does the story end? Daniel, I don't know if it'll ever really end. Daniel, there's always some part of us that'll hate the other part. And then Jay is apparently still in here, so maybe Gray State 2 was like Jay and Mallory. Jay is the first one of the crowd to leave. Oh, Mallory, John, and local militia leaders pick up her tail back out to their home neighborhoods. And yeah, it's like, this is like the everyone walks away ending. Like, that's not what I expected from not what I expected from Gray State. You know what I mean? I just expected something a little bit bloodier.
Yeah, it should have been deeper. It should have been more. Yeah, but that, I mean, that's us just kind of picking this whole thing apart, which is, it's unfortunately it was a letdown. I mean, really, I thought just for me, because I love fighting, so just because there was some really good fighting scenes, I would have went and saw it just for that.
Yeah, hell yeah, and that's an ezy thing to bank on too nowadays with like the whole Daredevil. Have you seen the Raid Redemption? Check that one out. I know you like some of that kung fu style stuff. That was probably the past couple decades. It's shot in Indonesia, so it's a totally like it's out there. But man, that is a freaking hardcore movie. They do use weapons and stuff like that, and that's a style of fighting I would have liked to have seen in Gray State, is like a Jeet Kune Do using the assault rifles and the pistols, and just a highly, because that's the thing about. Yeah, that's the thing about Gray State, is like, you want the hyper realism as far as the military style, action, but also it is basically like a pre-apocalyptic. It's still almost sci-fi, you know what I mean, and kind of what you're doing. So you're not really grounded in any like, they need to use Krav Maga, or they need to use some sort of standard military style, fighting style, you know what I mean? I think that would have been cool, because, you know what I mean, you would have really seen, almost like, even to bring, have you seen Equilibrium with
I have.
Yeah. So that whole thing they were doing with the tetragrammatons, how they were basically doing like a kung fu with the weapons. Like, I'm not saying to go double down and go all the way that far with it, but like something approaching that, like having them do like a almost martial arts style, with, like a John Wick, how it's kind of like fluid, the way he's using the pistol, and then the shots run out, and by the time you've been shooting at each other, you're already face to face, so you're not gonna, you know what I mean? You just go straight to hand to hand. I would have liked to seen that fluidity of the weapons to the hand to hand, and just have it carry over, because that's what you're expecting. If the government is throwing never-ending military resources at you, you have to fight through all those waves of, you know what I mean, of enemies, you know what I mean? So that would have been cool. But yeah, the twist with Bowen, just switching sides at the very end, I was not really sold on that, as Greg was saying. I think what you would need is some sort of hint that, again, and this is cliche again, but I'm going to go back to it, like, maybe him and Daniel like know each other from a previous unit from his past. Like if you're going to go through the whole military veteran thing, then certain themes got to relate to that. You know what I mean? So maybe he knows Bowen from a past unit. They created their own 3%er faction back in the 90s before anybody knew about it in the modern current gray state timeline. You know what I mean? And then it's cool because it's like, hey, yo, we're military soldiers, but we have this, kind of like their own secret society, like a revolutionary secret society. That would be the antithesis to the Illuminati cabal. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, they had their thing going on for thousands of years, but we started our own thing too. In case, hey, we're gonna be in this, we're gonna be in the service, but if the system ever turns against us, if anyone ever comes down on us, we got our own backup plan for each other, for our neighborhoods back home. So how we look out, you know what I mean? Something like that would have been cool. Other than just having Bowen just deciding to have that aha light bulb moment, like, hey, I know we tied him up and we're waterboarding him and we're about to publicly execute him on TV, but I don't think I want to go along with this plan anymore. And it's like, because didn't that dude do that in The Rock, where he switched sides in the beginning of Rock, where he pulled the gun on the one dude and then he switched sides and shot the other guy, and he was with him. So it's like we've already seen that play out on camera before. You know what I mean? So we want something different. You know what I mean?
And there just wasn't a good reason for it,
Right.
Right. I mean, I definitely didn't see it coming, but
yeah,
because there was no reason to see it coming.
Yeah, there was no foreshadowing. I guess, like, just find a way to foreshadow it that's not directly telling us. Like, have a shot of him looking at his phone and he's researching, freaking, InfoWars on his, you know what I mean? Just like give us some hint that he doesn't believe the mainstream narrative. And that way, like, you don't really know, that maybe he's questioning it, but you don't know, he hasn't made up his mind yet. And if you plant those breadcrumbs and the Easter eggs so we can see that he's questioning his authority, like he's questioning his allegiance, like that's what Equilibrium did really well when Christian Bale's character started to feel, and he was questioning the system, you know what I mean? And that like they did such a good job of him questioning his allegiance. That's what I would expect to see from more of these characters. Like I would expect to see it with Bowen, I would expect to see it with Walker. I mean, everybody but Wasik, because he's a freaking, Illuminati pawn, you know what I mean? But like,
he's a real piece of crap. But again, it just not a lot of character, not a lot of, just that's what this really needed more of. And this is an early, even if this was the last script David wrote, this would still be an early script. Once the actual filming started and everything, they're sure about all of
that. Stuff changes on set too. That's what makes Joker so crazy, because movies like that where they have it written, but they go to set and they change a crap ton of stuff, like just like on the fly. Like that's what makes filmmaking really interesting, is seeing if you have a director that can make those on set adjustments, where it's like, okay, the script says this, but like let's try this just because we're here, and then you can see how things look on camera, and you can get a real feel for in the moment of what works, you know what I mean? And that's like I think Oliver Stone, like he's a very he's a Vietnam veteran, he's a very like guerrilla style filmmaker too, of like Platoon, and I'm sure you've seen the things that he's done, as well as Apocalypse Now. Well, it's Coppola, but it's still that Apocalypse Now style filmmaking. I think that would have freaking done wonders for Gray State. You know what I mean? And they could have really.
Yeah, his son Sean Stone actually wanted a part in Gray State, which I thought was pretty interesting too.
Definitely,
there were some people that were tied to the Gray State, who were going to be in this. They never said who they were, but these were supposed to be some very top A-list talent.
Yep.
And so it's just really, really sad that David never got to fulfill this script, this project, because I think it would have been actually a revolutionary project.
I think so too. I mean,
just at the bare bones.
Whether it turned out a good or a bad film, as you said, like it definitely was taking a path that nothing I've ever seen, has ever done before, with, the big social media following, and, everybody was so into it, and the crowdfunding, and like he really showed just on crowdfunding. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I think Hardcore Henry got, I didn't see the crowdfunding. Do you know what Hardcore Henry is?
No.
It's like a it's a little bit crazy, but it's a first-person shooter movie. So it's an actual like action kind of military Clancy style movie shot in first person. They shot it out in Russia. It almost follows like a Universal Soldier kind of a story arc. Basically a soldier dude who gets operated on that gets enhanced, and you should check it out. It's crazy over the top. I mean, he fights a tank, but it's awesome. I mean, it's like it's so much more entertaining than you think it would be, because you just think like, oh, a first person shooter movie, oh, that would be stupid. But then you're just like, I mean, if you're an action dork like me and you just want to see senseless violence, you're like, this is awesome. This is awesome. You know what I mean? But that dude. That Hardcore Henry dude just directed the movie Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. It's like a vigilante.
I keep hearing about that. Yeah.
It's pretty sick, man. We reviewed it on the channel. You guys can check that out. I would, if you like Bob Odenkirk, it was cool. It was his first action movie. But yeah, I think Hardcore Henry got, I think, like 100 or 200,000 in crowdfunding, and I believe they shot that out in Russia or somewhere out there in Europe. Those guys were like, which is crazy. And then Gray State got like 60K. So other than like those, I don't know of any actual like action movie that has been crowdfunded and gone all the way through the process and did well. And I even think Hardcore Henry, I think they might have did something similar with like a concept trailer and maybe took the funds, and I think they got picked up by someone else that actually, you know what I mean, helped them finish it. I think I'm not an expert in that one, but anyway, yeah, it would have been cool to see just to see that whole development process, as Greg was saying, of, how this really would have ended. And I don't mean in a Gray State The Rise type of way or a Gray State type of way. I mean like taking this project, which is the script that we have now, these scripts, which I do want to check that other version, and you'll
definitely like that. We're definitely going to have to do a whole show on that one.
Definitely.
I'm so curious to hear what you think about it. It's freaking nuts. It is nuts, complete nuts, man. This one is kind of light. It's like tame. This is like the Gray State light version. That 2013 version is the dark version. I mean,
for sure.
Very, very, and there's a lot of stuff in there that I did like. The one thing I really like about the 2014 script is it's 126 pages. I still would have broken it. I still would have probably chopped it down. But that's about 90 minutes. That's like a 90-minute movie, and it did have this pacing that you were saying the pacing really wasn't there. I felt there was, the pacing was okay. It was just I don't know. It felt like it never went anywhere, and we needed that big payoff scene. Every martial arts movie, the best martial arts movies that I've ever seen, have at the end, it's the main guy fighting the main bad guy. And the martial arts movies that don't do that, it kind of fails me. You have Bruce Lee versus Han, right? That was a big thing. So there was no Wysek versus this Daniel Walker. And though that just kind of dragged on, a little bit too long. I didn't really understand why the scenes were cutting at the very end. So when people read this, if you have any ideas of why that scene is even there, Daniel's dead, but then he's speaking.
Yeah, I think it's because they're playing he gave them that video of the speech of the statement. So the whole thing was like rolling it after he had passed is supposed to be like the poetic thing, like his revolutionary words are obviously going to live on beyond, his spirit is going to live on beyond his character's actual lifespan. I think that's what it's going for. I mean,
that's better than anything I could come up with.
Well, I'm a huge nerd. Look at how many reviews are on my channel, so I guess that's kind of my department. I think this last quote, I think it's the last Daniel quote voiceover, but we'll never get better if everybody's afraid of everybody else. Decent quote. I think they probably could have gone out on something a little bit stronger, but some decent stuff. So good fights. Again, like the martial arts. Like I think that's with the whole tribal theme and the promos they shot with the tomahawks in the snow. You know, there's really nobody getting scalped, dude. I thought we were going to see some serious scalping, some serious tomahawking, and that, you know, that tomahawk represents, you know, the retribution of what happened to the natives, and now they're coming back, you know what I mean, bludgeoning the system, you know what I mean. So I really expect, like, why didn't Wasik should have got scalped, you know what I mean. Even if Daniel Walker died, John Walker, he was coming in scalping everybody, then should have, like, okay, my son's dead now, and then scalp him, hold up the flap of his, you know, bloody fucking hair follicles, and that's really what I would expect to see I mean, like, isn't the whole thing about, like, revolution, like, violence begets violence, you know what I mean? So you have the system enslaving everybody, and then the 3%, you know, having this uprising. Now, like we said, you're going to have the rise and fall and all that, and the consequences, and you might not necessarily know what's going to happen, but you assume if this tyrant is going around oppressing everybody, and just look at history, you know, World War II or any other example, that, you know, that revolution is going to come back and overthrow him. And,
and Daniel doesn't even kill this main villain either.
Right.
The main villain, the doors open at the end.
Yeah.
The main villain is there, and these soldiers shoot him.
Yeah, he has the gun on. That's the thing. Yeah, he has the gun on him, and he fades out. Yeah, and that's and as you were saying. So yeah, the martial arts theme, like with Danny's involvement with the Jeet Kune Do, like what I was expecting to see was like. That's what was so cool about, you know, when Tony Jaa first came out with Ong Bak and the Protector, is seeing that Muay Thai style on, like, whenever you see that new style on, you know, back then it was Bruce Lee, then Jet Li, Jackie Chan did like some drunken boxing style and some different, you know, Wing Chun, different. Dude, I think that's my favorite one from him, dude. The technical style is just so nuts. But you know, hearing that Danny had this Jeet Kune Do background, I think at the very least they could get sick Jeet Kune Do choreographers or a Jeet Kune Do action star. I don't know if one exists, but you could probably find like a medium level guy who could pull off the, you know, I mean, like in name stature, who could pull off the moves, and then you know, basically fighting this new style of hand to hand with the tomahawk, and basically give it that there's kind of like this native indigenous martial art, you know what I mean? And that'd be something different, because how often have you seen tomahawk fights on camera in Hollywood since Last of the Mohegans, if I'm not mistaken,
right.
Like 1992, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's been about, you know, 3 decades. So that would have been freaking crazy, dude. Like him just mowing people down with the tomahawk, and then, like you said, getting to Wasik, and then I think Wasik should have a martial arts background. He should be like a Vladimir Putin. Doesn't Vladimir do like a BJJ or something? So he should, Krav Maga and shit. So boom, there. Like, that's what makes Spartacus so good. Is have you seen Spartacus on Stars? Is like he fights like the Roman generals, and even though that they're like 55, they're like these jacked, ripped, like European guys. And you know, that should have been Wasik. Like, we want to see him as the Vladimir Putin with the martial arts background, and then he brings, you know, the Eastern European style Krav Maga to Daniel Walker's Jeet Kune Do with the tomahawk, and they fight with a Rambo knife, and I'm sure he scalps him or something. Anyway, do you guys want me to rewrite the whole thing, or what
Please do. Here, so? It sounds like we really need to get you on this here. I mean, you know, it is sad that this movie will never be made. Now, I do think that there is still a possibility if we can get it proven, you know, if there can be some documentation or something to get the case reopened, to get the case re-examined, or to where just in the court of public opinion, people understand that, you know, David Crowley is not guilty. There's no proof that David Crowley killed anybody. And then maybe somebody can take this script and do something with it, because there is a lot of good stuff here. And if you take all of these scripts and just take some of these concepts, maybe even take some of the real stuff that happened with David Crowley too, man, you got a hell of a story here. Hell
yeah, I agree. No, I totally agree. It's I think the real shame is, like you said, is how things turned out, and the fact that the script got put on ice, and then this project that had all of this momentum behind it got iced. And even, as you said, if it's not going to be a feature film or a long format TV series, long form format, then I would at the least like to see like just someone take the written material and just draw it out in, you know, concepts as a graphic novel, comic book, or a graphic novel, or I think honestly, Gray State would make a sick video game if it was like a Tom Clancy Splinter Cell style. You know, COD is so big now, and you know what I mean. Like just, you know, a military shooter, I think would be, you know, if that's just a way that's like, okay, you don't want to actually hire actors and shoot live action with cameras. You just get a bunch of sick voice actors who are already, you know, known guys, like, you know, Batista and like that. Then you just get some famous voices in the game, and then it's still a cool way. Like, okay, you got the big names, but you don't really need the, you know, $50+ million budget to shoot the sci-fi military, you know, conspiracy thriller. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
that's right.
I
like
but yeah,
that. It's a good idea.
yeah. I mean, I like I said, I would do it differently if I were. I really think that I could take a lot of these same concepts and kind of rewrite my own version. I think I would keep like the revolution and the uprising and stuff. I would probably lose Osama bin Laden and the, you know, of course you would have that whole Tom Clancy military industry complex thing, but I think I would do it differently. What David talked about on the interview with us is, you know, the Gray State universe being able to support reptilians. If you follow the work of David Icke and Jordan Maxwell and the reptilian aliens, I know that gets ripped on a lot on the internet, but that's really what I wanted to see is the line blurred, and just for it to go all out into the conspiracy end, because there's no reason why you need to keep it grounded in realism. It's still just a sci-fi, you know, like They Live. Okay, let's say They Live is like the deep end. You know what I mean? You don't have to quite go all the way that far into it like John Carpenter, but you know, you could have left some hints to it, like, you know, what's going on, and is anybody watching these events playing out on Earth? Is anybody watching from out there? You know what I mean? Like what's good?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to spoil the 2013 script, but I think you're really going to like it. There's some elements
for sure
of what you're talking about. There's some elements of that in there.
Yeah, for sure. And again, you don't have to like go deep on it or double down on it. You could just leave some like open, you know, Indiana Jones style. You can leave some open-ended hints to it. But yeah, that would be the line that I would be teetering on, is to like the line between realism and just going all out and making it ridiculous with some reptilians. But I think there's there's a lot that I would do differently. I still think it could be a lot more focused, but I do like the tribal stuff. I think that should stay. I think that's probably something I would keep, and I would do it a little bit differently to try to drive that point more home.
So you would have the reptilians fighting the tribal. Now, what type of fighting style would these reptilians have? I'm very curious to know.
They'd be interdimensional, so they'd just beaming. You know, they'd be beaming in and out in the fight, and you know, they'd be somewhat cheating. You know what I mean? But somebody would have to fight their weakness. Somebody would have to find their weakness. You know what I mean? So, but that's I don't know. I do have some notes plotted out for a feature that is just kind of like a completely unhinged dystopian type thing. It's not grounded in realism in any facet, but it's a similar dystopian type thing, and then it does have like, you know, reptilians and all that stuff, but it's just basically more of a, I don't even know how I would describe it, but it's like just an alternate, you know, kind of dystopian totalitarian America that just kind of focuses more on like military and mercenary type stuff. You know what I mean? That's it. Mm-hmm. There's definitely more Shakespearean. It's kind of funny. We'll see if I ever get around to plotting it out completely. But I think there's definitely something that, especially the fact that no one's ever done anything with this pre-apocalyptic, you know, Gray State concept. Like I said, especially when things ended the way they did, like you were saying, I was really expecting just Netflix and Hollywood to just churn out like 1,000 of these, you know what I mean? And it was just going to be like, oh, damn, now it's even worse because this one didn't get finished, and now we have to deal with like the, you know, discount bootleg versions for the rest of eternity, you know what I mean? So
right.
I'm kind of glad that didn't happen.
It may have. I mean, I have seen some film covers and I'm like, oh, that looks like David. I don't know if you've heard of the movie called Captive State.
Yes. I think we were talking about that in the group.
Yeah, so I still haven't seen it, but I really want to see it.
I haven't seen it either.
But it's there's a short story called Gray State, Grey, state. And that does touch on beings from other planets and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So, but yeah, nothing like what David was doing. David was grounded. This story, this script is definitely grounded, and so it has the potential to really let people know this could happen. Everything David Crowley is talking about in this stuff, this could actually happen if we're not already in it at some level, which I kind of think we are.
Exactly. And that, you know what, that's what's crazy is the art imitating life of like all the Snowden stuff coming out, and then like we were saying, like the Black Lives Matter and the protests and the civil unrest, and just like, man, it was, especially what was crazy about it is at the time how they were following along with the gray state development was they were doing those posts, you know, they were doing like YouTube posts and the stuff about Gray State: The Rise and how it was basically following that realistic source material. And that's what made it so insane is nothing has ever followed current events in that way. At the same time, we're developing our film, which includes all this stuff, you know what I mean? Which was definitely interesting. And as you said, it kind of became more relevant over time, you know what I mean? With the Snowden stuff and then current events and the political campaigns, just everything that has come out between 2014 till now, you'd have to wonder what the impact would have been, because like, does a film become even after it's released, does it continue to be more relevant? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the real question. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, which is what They Live was. But when you read the 2013 script, you will see people in mass drinking frappuccinos. You will read about a vaccine that was killing people. There's a lot of COVID stuff in that first one too. That is not in this 2014 one.
See, that
crazy stuff, man,
is really interesting, because I was gonna relate that to the quarantine zone of the dark zone and how that kind of gave you quarantine vibes of what we've been living through now.
People dropping dead and stuff like that, which is, that's what they told us with COVID. I don't know if it was really happening, but in those first couple weeks, it was like all these people are dropping dead.
But like you said, current event, regardless of what the truth is, it's the headline of the current event. So that's pretty crazy. I assume you're familiar with Fight Club.
Yes.
So we reviewed Fight Club 2 on the channel. It's a graphic novel, and then Mac and I are looking to review Fight Club 3.
How many are there?
Just 3. Well, there's the book, and then the movie follows the book. The graphic novel's the direct sequel to Fight Club 1. That's Fight Club 2, and then 2 and 3 are graphic novels, basically. Okay. So they're just they're just like their own medium, their own narrative, but it's the same author, the author that wrote the book, Chuck P.
Different characters, I'm guessing, not the same.
You have to find out on your own, but no, it is the same characters. I'm not going to say about their image or likeness or how they look, but it is the same characters. And they add some new ones too. And Fight Club 3 actually deals with a virus that's a spoiler alert, I guess, if I'm ruining this for Greg. But this was before quarantine, as you were saying, and before COVID. It deals with a genetic, chemically bioengineered virus that is released, and then they have the cure for it, and it's kind of like what you were saying about the vaccine. It's a similar type of thing, so it's always interesting to see things that release that narrative first, like Fight Club 3 and that early Gray State script that you're referring to. It's again art imitating life, and it's much more eerie when it's like, okay, man, it's somebody, and not to say that anyone can't just think of anything creatively and write it at any time, and then that real event can happen later on, but it's like, it's always strange when it happens, though. Like you said, with They Live, this is what me and Mac and Gaz and the other boys from my show, Paradigm Review Show, Subscribe, talk about. Like, They Live had drones in it in like 1988. Dude, that was like 30, 40 years off before anyone was ever going to develop drones, or at least from what we know. Yeah, okay, the military might have had early stuff that we didn't know about, but as far as like domestic drones and even drone technology, like try to imagine people understanding that in 88 when cell phones weren't even, common yet, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of crazy when that stuff kind of happens. I think that's basically everything I got on the Gray State deep dive. Thanks for rolling with us, guys. Definitely appreciate having Greg back. We definitely got to get you on the other channels for some martial arts action, and we've been covering some wrestling. Have you seen Dark Side of the Ring? I assume.
I haven't.
Dude.
You know, that stuff really hits me hard, because when it comes to wrestling, I like to think, I like to focus on the positive stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
but I wouldn't mind watching some of that stuff. I
yeah,
know it's just going to get me very frustrated, because we have
yeah,
lived through all of that stuff.
yeah, for
And
sure, for sure.
that's all people were ever talking about. Oh, wrestling's bad, steroids, this and that. There,
Yeah.
it's a lot deeper. And so I do hope that it's not just a hit piece, the same way that we've seen the hit piece on David Crowley, where just
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
I wouldn't say it's a hit piece, but again, I really like that director, Jason Eisner. He did a Grindhouse movie called A Hobo with a Shotgun. It's just like a ludicrous Grindhouse movie, vigilante movie. It's just totally unhinged, but it's awesome. It's got like guys from Trailer Park Boys in it and stuff. But that director is awesome. And yeah, I wouldn't say it's a hit piece, but as you said, if you were a hardcore 80s, 90s wrestling fans, it covers some heavy stuff, as you said, like living through it and then not wanting to revisit that. I could totally understand, because there are a lot of deaths. There's like Bruiser Brody, Owen Hart, there's in-depth deep dives into all those stories. And, you learn a lot. I was kind of like a casual fan. I like Piper and Warrior and, Hogan, all the classics, but, man, there's depression, there's drug use, there's deaths, there's murder, there's, deals gone bad, there's, double crossings, like there's all the, behind the scenes of the wrestling industry. And I wouldn't say like it focuses on the bad, but it does like deep dive on a lot of stuff that you like may not have heard of. So it's a great series if you're into wrestling.
just as long as it's accurate too.
Yeah, I feel that it is, but again, I don't necessarily know a ton about all those backstories, because like you're dealing with a lot of stuff. I mean, I was born in '85, so that's like some of that stuff takes place before that, and you know what I mean. So there's obviously no way I'm gonna know about it, And then
I had heard they did a dark side of the wrestling. There's a new one that came out on Brian Pillman. I hear that one.
Yeah, that's the new. I think that's like the first couple episodes of the new season 3, and then the Ultimate Warrior episode is coming up next week. But yeah, we did
nuts.
Dude, I can't wait. But we did a review of season 1. You guys can check that out on the channel. Like, sub, share. Shout out to everybody in the group. Justice for David Crowley. Go join that group. I hope you guys enjoyed this Gray State script deep dive. We definitely want to come back for the other version of the script, and I'll cover that hopefully with Greg. You can get his book. Check him out on the website. I believe we do have the links for you and Dan's site and the links on my site. So make sure to subscribe to these guys and follow you. Any other links or your book or anything else you want to plug before we go?
No, I think, you can, you can go to thegraystage.wordpress.com. You can download the free PDF right now. I am working on either a part 2 or maybe an extended. But from there too, from the website, if you want a physical copy, you can also get a physical copy for $15-20 or something like that. So
absolutely. Make sure to support this guy. Yeah, he did an amazing job of really putting together the timeline of the Crowley stuff. Keep in mind, guys, this is how I found Greg and Dan. There was like nothing out there about this case before these guys deep dived into it, and Dan did his updates on YouTube, and Greg's done the book, and I'm sure has several other long form PDFs on his website.
Yeah, we do have a podcast too. So
nice.
We have the Gray Stage podcast too. We do a live show, or we do a new show every month, and it just covers the book and all the thousands of things that we didn't go into in that book, and we just kind of cover so many different things in that. And like I said, it just really scratches the surface. So I'm so happy to have someone like you who really does care, who talked with David too. That's also rare too. We haven't really had a chance. Most of the people who have talked with David think that we're just crazy, or that we, and it's like, wait a minute, you guys are accusing him of being guilty. We're the bad guys? No.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Things get weird with this stuff, especially in the creative space, and it's just so obnoxious for this to happen with such a big project that has so much promise behind it. But at the same time, looking at it from the outside in, I can kind of see the way that it goes, because this with Hollywood projects, this kind of thing probably happens all the time. This just happened to be an indie project out there from the Mountain West, so it's just kind of sad to see it go that way. So make sure to subscribe to Greg's channel. Then you guys have got the Gray Stage channel as well, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep. the YouTube channel. So we got that. Just has David Crowley stuff on there. So we're gonna start doing more live shows there too. But yeah, it's we're gonna keep going until the case is either reopened or we're just going to keep going just to let the public know that, hey, David Crowley is not guilty. There is no proof of his guilt, and in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And do you still do the restreams over there? I know for a while you kind of were doing.
My computer crapped out, but yeah, every now and then I'll do one of those. But once I get my little desktop here fixed and my Linux is back up and running, yeah, we're gonna do a lot of replays.
You overloaded it with replays.
You do, man. People are like, it's too much. I've seen this 20 times. Like, okay, yeah,
no. It was good. I appreciate you did that though, because you reposted the stream you did with me and Gaz, and it was it's cool for people who are new to the case and haven't caught up with that old stuff that we all did back in the day. You get a second chance to see it over there on Greg's stuff. So make sure to support these guys. I'll probably drop a link to Zodiac Files episode 1. If you guys don't know, I'm on the
awesome.
Yes. I'm on the Zodiac killer case. That's the one I'm stuck on right now. We have episode 2, the death of Ray Davis, the possible first attack of the Zodiac killer here in Oceanside, California. That's coming real soon. So just like, sub, and share for notifications. Couple quick shout outs. My boy Drew Beeson citing in on the Zodiac killer. Drew does really good research on this topic. You can check him out at the Drew Beeson channel on YouTube, where he does the Zodcast. His suspect is Don Cheney, the friend of Arthur Leigh Allen. So he does a lot of cool stuff. He also does DB Cooper and UFOs and paranormal. We talk a lot of one day I need to get a super show with all you guys, Greg, Drew, me, and we're just gonna completely go unhinged on UFOs and paranormal and just see how deep the rabbit hole. We'll get the dream team together and we'll just do one big super show. So I think that's all I have for you guys, but there's no other in-depth discussion of the Gray State script on YouTube. So I wanted us to do a deep dive and hopefully answer some of these questions of where can I see it or I saw it. No, you haven't, unless you downloaded it and read the script. And I think I guess one thing I could do is a script reading. I know those are big things. If you guys ever want me to do that, I could do the full script reading here on the channel, kind of like an audiobook style format. So if that's something you'd be interested in, leave. So, or I'll probably end up doing it with the other version because Greg says I'll be much more interested in that one. So if I do it one I'm not invested in on, it might not be that interesting, but I might like that one. So leave your feedback below, guys. Let us know. We're out. Make sure to support the book and follow these guys. Shout out to everybody in the group. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one, everyone. We're out.